From the bench to the bleachers, you are listening to the only podcast in Ontario that keeps you in the game.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this.
Again, these are people that you have bumped into and you've gotten to meet through, again, let's face it, I guess if you didn't have your uncle or your dad, what are those experiences like for you? Like who for you, when you're on the road, what memorable bands, even growing up and maybe touring with them, like not touring, but being on the road, who was it for you that you've met or seen that you thought was pretty cool?
Think, man, it's always been interesting. When I was a kid, I didn't know how to process it. It was neat, but it was just like a thing. Like by the time I was 10, my pops was all over MTV. It was weird. I was like, oh, this is bizarre. And that summer he did a big tour with the Stone Temple Pilots, actually. So my sister and I, we were 10 that year. We went out for like a couple weeks through California with them. And that was really neat because I liked them. They were a band that was on the radio that I really enjoyed. So that was cool as a kid. I'm trying to think of who else, but other things, it was just, I didn't really know how to process it. Like, my dad and them, they've known the Red Hot Chili Peppers since both bands were like, just real small. So I've been around them quite a bit. When I was a kid, that was really like neat because I really liked them. But then at the same time, it's just like your parents' friends. So it's a little bit different because it's cool, but like they're humanized so much more. So, but me personally, let's think like, okay, so I got to, there's just been a few things over the years. When my dad first got the Meatpuppets back together, very first in 2006, the first dude they had played drums with him for just a little bit. It was Tim Alexander from Primus, actually, which was random. And I got to go jam with him, which was insane for me because as a teenager, he was such a huge influence for me. His drumming.
Dude, we just talked about Primus.
Right. So I got to go play with him, which was nuts. And then my dad, shortly before that, he got the Meatpuppets back together. He had this band, short-lived, called Volcano. And it was after he had did this Eyes Adrift group with Chris Novoselic from Nirvana and Bud, the drummer from Sublime. And when he was in Volcano, I jammed with them once, and I got to play with Bud Gaw, who had been the drummer in Sublime, who was a massive influence. Just his drumming, I just always loved the way he drummed in particular. So it was hilarious for me because it was just like these dudes who, when I was 13, 12, first getting into music, like these were the two drummers that I really was drawn to. I got to play with both of them. That was neat. But when it comes to meeting people, I met it's hard to say. I met okay, here's it. I met Leo Kottke. He's an acoustic guitar player, and I don't know. For a lot of people, that would just be like, who the hell is Leo Kottke? But for me, he's one of my favorite guitar players of all time. So to get to meet him in the capacity I had a job as a runner at a music festival in Austin. I was 22, and I got to pick him up from the airport. And then I just had the person that was scheduling her. I was like, hey, make me his dedicated runner for this whole time, this whole festival. So I got to drive the old dude around a whole bunch. And finally, after a day, I was like, hey, man, I hate to do this. I was like, but I got a fanboy out on you. I was like, you're one of my favorite guitar players. I was like ever. And he was blown away because I'm a kid, and I'm 22 at the time. And I looked like I was about 14. And he was just like, oh, wow. He was just surprised that I knew who he was so well. And he starts talking to me about writing songs and the history. He's blowing my mind. He's just all of a sudden starts telling me all these stories about other guitar players I love. He's telling me about hanging out with them. And I'm just oh, wow. So for me, that was one of the coolest ones. But I've met a bunch of people that were random. It's hard to say what I thought was cool because it's kind of all cool, and it's mostly cool if they're cool people. You know what I mean? But I've had some weird crap. I met this isn't this is just for the hell of it, but I randomly met that guy from Coldplay when he was married to Gwyneth Paltrow, and their baby Apple was a baby. Like, I met the the famous baby. So there's that.
Yeah, and I mean, Coldplay for me. I mean, the first album, I was all over it, and then got a little too commercialized for me, right? I mean, the first album with Yellow, when I heard it, I was like, yeah, you know, I could sit back to that. And then a few of the other piano songs that they had there were pretty awesome. Yeah, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went, oh, I can see where this is going, right? So you talk about the people on the road. So where's your most favorite place to play? Like that you like going to, whether I guess you call it a city or even a venue?
San Francisco. So my favorite cities to play are it's kind of no particular order, but it's actually, San Francisco is my favorite city to play. We play this club there called the Independent a lot, and I love playing there. It's just like a mid-sized rock venue, but it's great. The staff is awesome. It sounds good. The gigs are great. But anywhere in San Francisco is awesome. The last time we played there, we played this festival in Golden Gate Park called Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. It's like 10, 15,000 people. That's a shitload of people. That was awesome. We killed. That was a blast. But I love San Francisco. And then after that, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York City. Those are awesome places to play. The crowds get down. It's always a good time. Actually, also Minneapolis or St. Paul, the Twin Cities there in Minnesota. Those are really fun. As everybody's drunk as hell, you know.
So you're bringing up those cities. CBGB, like did Pops and Uncle ever play there? Or no, I haven't looked.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I never did. Yeah, shit closed down before I got to it. I've been to where the building was, and I've seen what it is now. It's like some high-end like surf clothes store. It's just insane. It's just ridiculous. But yeah.
That should have been kind of kept as a historical, like a surf store, man. Like, I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I'd love to try the surfing and everything, but yeah, I mean, there's so much history there, right?
So, but those are my favorite cities to play. Honestly, I think those are just a blast always. Like San Francisco is awesome, great crowds, everybody's just really like San Francisco, everyone's stoned, they're all on acid, you know, everyone's open-minded and kind of hippy-dippy-ish, but they just get down, man. I love it. And then like I said, like Chicago, always fun, always a throwdown. Philadelphia, which I hated, it was my least favorite place ever when I first went there the first couple times. I hated it. I hated it, man. I hated play.
I've only been there once, and that was with work with the company that I owned. It was for the NHL draft. We had 2 clients drafted.
We were on tour there once, and we got rear-ended by a city truck. It was like, you kidding me? But I used to hate it. I did, and then it grew on me in such a weird way. And now it is literally one of my favorite places to play in the world. I know the show is going to rule every time, and the people are going to be fun. You know, a lot of it's weird, of all places, being from Phoenix, you know, it's so different. A lot of my favorite people in the world are some of the coolest people I know live in Philadelphia or are from Philadelphia, randomly enough. And I never thought I would say that, because I used to call I was just like, that place is the asshole of America. It sucks. It's a dump. The people are jerks. But I was wrong. I don't know. I was wrong. That's a place that surprisingly changed my mind. So.
At least you're being polite about it, because I think Def Leppard came through in Hamilton in Cops Coliseum on a hot summer day, like we're talking over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Ontario. And what did they say in the interview? Something about, because it's an older building, right? But it's like it can hold 15,000. It smells like ass, and something about it's like a urine bowl and a toilet bowl and 1,000 sweaty asses is what the dress and it was all over the radio, right? So, and like all of a sudden you had some people that were like, you know, pissed off about it, but it's an old building, right? I mean, they're trying to get a new venue. Like, don't get me wrong, these cities do want to have new venues and invest, because when you have these nice facilities, you're able to book these, you know, then the bands will want to come back, especially if the audience is good and the facilities are good. Like you said, you talked about being in these dives before, right? And you're like, oh, armpit of the world, or this place is shitty, or it smells, or we're always in these small little clubs. But I mean, some large buildings and some large festivals can be a snooze fest.
Absolutely.
That some small venues can be some of the best shows
Some
you've
of the
ever
best,
played.
man. We
right?
played a place, this tiny little weird bar in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where it was like lengthwise long, but then the stage wasn't at the end of it facing, the stage was facing like the wall. So like literally, it's weird. There's people on either side of you, but then you're like 10 feet away from the wall. It's like, what the hell? And dude, that show was awesome, man. This is probably 2013, maybe. That was a while ago, but 2014, I can't recall. But dude, it was awesome. Because I remember getting there was no green room, and it was just weird. And we were there way early and just hanging out in the van, just like, what the hell is this? Like, give me a break. Oh, it was just one of the best shows. It was so weird. It was like, this rules. Like, so you never know. Like again, like you're saying, like those dive bars, those old rock clubs, those can be great, man, because there's a place we play out in Pioneer Town, which is outside of Yucca Valley, outside of Joshua Tree in California. It's called Pappy and Harriet's. And it's just a little roadhouse out in the middle of nowhere. Man, everyone plays out there, and it rules, and it's not big. And, but it's just sick. It's like so fun. It's just like a destination. People like to go there, and it's just a throwdown every time. Or like Chicago's got the Empty Bottle, which is a blast to play, and it's not big, and it's just like, a little rock club, and it's dingy as hell, but man, people love it, and they have a blast, and it's fun. And just, make countless places like that, you know what I mean? Like that are maybe small, but they're classics. Like Philly, there's Johnny Brenda's, which is cool. It's not big, but it's just awesome. We haven't played there in quite a while, but still, it's like awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't.
Do you guys have that feeling like not that you're checking them off your list, but you do a tour, you do something, and you're like, oh yeah, like we're almost at this place. This place is like A1 every time we go there. Great show, love the place. Like, is there ones that like when they're coming up on a stop that you're like, oh yeah, this place is like badass. We love it every time we go there.
For sure. And it's not like we talk about it too much, but we all know. Yeah, like we like in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, there's this Brooklyn Bowl where we play, and that's always fun because it's like a good sized venue. It's new. It sounds good. It's newer. I mean, it's clean, and it's just good. And like we do really well there. So it's going to be a ton of people. It's going to be a fun night. We play in Philadelphia, this place called Underground Arts. We've been playing it for like the last 6 years, and I always know that's going to rule. So Underground Arts in Philadelphia, definitely going to rule. The Independent in San Francisco, just always going to rule. Always. Every time. They never don't. It's always just fucking awesome. So I'm actually bummed out because we had the tours this summer cancel. We were going to be doing a tour with this co-headliner with Mudhoney that was supposed to be this past month. And we're going to get to play places that I've never got to play before, that I've always wanted to, that I've been to, but we're going to play the Fillmore in San Francisco, which for me would have been bucket list, and play the El Rey in Los Angeles, and then this really cool art space in Albuquerque down in New Mexico called Meow Wolf, outside, maybe it's in Santa Fe, I don't know where the hell it is, somewhere in New Mexico, but in any case, cool venues that I was really stoked about, that for me were like definitely like checking them off. And apparently we will be doing these next year, granted that things are back to normal, which here in America, or we're both in America, I should say the United States of America, where I live, we have decided that it's time to open up shop a little too soon. You saw this thing that happened in Missouri. They opened up Lake of the Ozarks. People went down there en masse, and then bam, Corona spike. And now they're asking all these people to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. It's like, well, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, no offense. And like, I'm not weighing in on it either way. Like, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea what's going on, but I have friends that are doctors. I date a nurse, and these people take it seriously. And like, so I'm going to go with them, I'm going to take it seriously. And if we're being a little overly cautious, well, then I think it's fair to err on the side of caution. Now, in our country, it's been weird because a lot of people are like, we need to get the economy going. This is hurting the economy. And yeah, it is. It's hurting my economy, man. Like, my tours are canceled. That's how I make my spray. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm feeling it. But I also understand where I live. I live in a country where we have a lot of money and we spend trillions of dollars that we waste on the military and on other things. And you're telling me that we can't subsidize our economy, or we can't forgive debts, or we can't have loan programs? Nah, man, the economy hurts because our government decided to let you hurt, you being the proverbial you, us, the citizens. And that's the end of it, man. And that's not even me. I'm not trying to, like, I hate politicizing it, but that's just being real. Like, I'm not.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And I'm telling you right now, even in Canada, it's the same way. We used to own our own banking system, just like the States. And you talk about the Federal Reserve now. I mean, we have people who are billionaires that are sorry, we're slaves. Okay.
Yeah.
We buy a house, we pay debt on it, we pay debt on a car, or interest and all that. All this interest that, whether it's 1.9% up to 7% is all going to these billionaires. That the government should be controlling our own money and should be giving interest-free loans or 0.9% loans for everybody. And we'd be doing it, but we're feeding these rich people who essentially own our media.
They own
our food,
all of it.
Everything.
Own all of it. And it's not far-fetched to say that, because it's verifiable reality. This is just there. It's just there for you to see. And it says a lot about the way people perceive that sort of thing. And to me, it's just disheartening because, like I said, Arizona is a pretty conservative place. And in that, I mean, it's a pretty, like, redneck-ass conservative place. The people here are just, like, it's just disappointing, but you see a lot of latent racism and a lot of blatant racism as well, too, because we are on the border of Mexico. So a lot of our culture here should be Chicano and Mexican. And to me, it is, man. I grew up here. I love Mexico. I love Mexicans. I grew up around these people. But you got all these people here that act like they don't like them and that they're not good people. That's such a load of shit. That blows my mind. That's just you willingly choosing to discriminate against people because you're too fucking lazy to learn any Spanish, but you criticize these people because they speak broken English. Yeah, they speak 2 languages. You hardly speak English yourself, and you're an American citizen. And so that's weird enough for me. And then that translates into this sort of like kind of bully mentality you can get around here, where people are down at, like, the Capitol building in Phoenix protesting the closures here, which we didn't have. We weren't shut down that much here. You know what I mean? We didn't have strict stay-at-home orders. We shut down, non-essential businesses and everything like that. And a lot of people weren't working or working from home, and they still are. But we didn't get too hardcore here, and people were still flipping out like, they're having their rights taken away, which is the funniest thing. It's just like, dude, we have so many rights in this country, and I know a lot of people like me that are a little bit more alternative are like, oh yeah, free country my ass. No, it is, man. Like, it is. I've traveled the world, and yes, America is not what it's painted out to be, or the United States of America isn't maybe necessarily what it's painted out to be, but it also is at the same time. And to watch these people pretend like there's been an impediment on their, like, freedoms, it's like, shut up and go home. You've got your guns, because this is also you can carry guns in Arizona. You can have guns and you can carry them around, and you can conceal your weapon and carry it without a permit now. So this is a total cowboy redneck dump when it comes to that. And I'm not even even opposed to guns. I just think that's irresponsible. So.
Yeah, I don't own a gun. I have no issues with guns. My wife used to have a gun up here with her job and had a firearms license. Actually, up in Canada, we have become more a state of control up here, to be honest with you. You might be shocked. Yeah, the decriminalization of weed was there. That was Trudeau's promise when he got elected a couple years back. But just recently, in the last couple months, or probably the last month, he's actually banned 1,500 types of firearms in Canada. Banned them. 1,500. I didn't even know there was that many.
Your specific hate speech laws in Canada, to me, are kind of crazy. I mean, I understand, like, on a human level, like, there's a sentiment that I agree with, but I don't, because, like, that's a slippery slope. Who decides? You know what I mean? Like, and for someone like me, I've always put a lot of stock in my own opinion of what I like to do. And I don't like to be told what to do. And that's not to say I won't toe the line. I absolutely will, because path of least. Absolutely. And for someone else to decide what is okay for me to say with my own mouth when it's not hurting other people, like, listen, I understand that we all have feelings, because I'm a sensitive human being, and I'll admit that. But I also don't make my bullshit other people's problems. And if you think that your feelings take precedent over my pursuit of a really independent freedom that isn't contingent upon anything other than you having your feelings hurt, I'm sorry, we've come to an impasse, because I just don't agree. Like, that's your problem. It's not my problem, and you can't make it my problem. And then when I see, like, we could go over a litany of things that are wrong with the legal system and our laws here. But when you guys have those hate speech laws, I'm just like, that shit's crazy. And you see your neo-leftist here, which is not your traditional liberal, which I kind of am, but your neo-leftist here, they're all over it. They want it so bad. And I'm just like, this isn't going to be what you guys want, because this is censorship and it's wrong.
We're talking about, like, you're talking basically like Antifa.
Oh yeah. Well, those people are idiots, man. That's so the way you stop fascism is to be a fascist. I don't think so, man. Like, listen, you don't like what someone says, so you go and attack them. And then I know all these people who I think are rational thinking people who are telling me that it's okay. And I'm like, you are normalizing preemptive violence. I don't care what side you're on. I'm not
They're promoting and pushing it.
Yep. And I'm not for that. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't believe anybody should be being violent. But if someone like said something you don't like, you don't get to go hit that person.
That's
and then
right.
and then we all applaud it. Like, as rancid as what that person is doing is, right? Like, man, neo-Nazis, what assholes.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
That's what their theory is, punch them when they're down. No, my theory is when a brother's down, you reach your hand out and pick them up and help them.
Right, because these could be learning opportunities for everybody. But when you become an extremist, that just begets more extremism. And it's never going to end up being what you think it's going to be. Like,
well, I got bashed yesterday, and this is another American thing, right? So forgive me, I forget his name, but the young African American guy that died there with the cop that
right, I don't recall. It's George something, maybe.
Yeah. So I saw the picture, and I'm reading all the comments, right? And they're talking, and it's more racial. This is what they're getting in, because it might have been a white cop, but when you looked at it, I think there was actually multiracial cops that were there. And I kept saying to him, I was like, listen, don't fall for this. Like, don't fall into the trap of this is a thing where we have a government control and some bad cops, right? And I said he should be charged with murder. And I said, and I showed him other videos of black cops doing it to other black people, white cop doing it to a white guy, being a real idiot, swearing at him, throwing him around. And he's like, and the comments I'm getting is, oh, you're white knighting. I'm like, no, you guys are falling for this trap where they want you to pit black versus white because this is a white cop and a black guy. You're falling for what they want. And I said, what it is this is a tyrannical government or bad cops who should be charged. And not all cops are bad. And I said, the problem, but I said, we're falling into and they were like, Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, they do. Yes, they do. All lives matter. And I said, at this point in time, you need to be more united and understand each other and love each other and say, that man deserves to be charged with murder and the story, meaning the police officer, right? But right away, there's so much violence and anger on social media about it, and I was almost the first guy, dude. I had a tear for that man who died and his family, because I'm like, here we go again.
Oh right? Again, it's going to be the same old thing where like it's so unfortunate, and to see the way that people respond to it too. Like I can't relate to the African American experience here in this country. I can't.
No, I can't either. We're both Caucasian people, right?
Yeah.
I told them I don't possess to know that, and I guess when they bring up the white privilege, no, I was never privileged. Not like some people were. I had some rough goes, but yes, I would thoroughly not understand what the African American or minorities.
I think the problem with that is it comes down to like language. When we start saying like using terms as like privilege and saying, it just gets hard for people to understand. And again, it's another thing that just gets people riled up and pits them against each other. To me, it seems like it's not necessarily that I'm privileged. It's just that you have been denied of your civil liberties that you deserve. It's not that I'm getting more than you deserve. We don't both deserve to get the shit end of the stick. We should be here together. And I think a lot of people would agree with that, but then it triggers their sensitivities because now the technology is exclusivist, right? And that's hard for people to sink their teeth into. And even if I agree with it, it's like, well, it's hard because a lot of people don't agree because you're saying this is specific to this one thing. And it's like, well, why are you excluding me? And it's like, well, to prove a point. The problem is some people don't have a capacity to have that point proven to them. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just the problem with the language we use around this kind of stuff. It's hard. Like you were saying, like people politicize things, they're always going to. But man, it sucks when we like use that as a way to get pissed off at one another.
Well, we're getting weak. We're getting weaker.
Yeah,
as a society and a nation.
Yeah, and then look what happens. It's more room for people to slip on in and just pull those puppet strings, and here we are, just doing what we're told more and more and more and more and more and more because people don't work together. You know, the United States, you know, it's founded under this premise. It's like, this is a democracy. You're the government. You know, this is like, how? Everybody hates each other. We have this bipartisan voting system that like is just contingent on like the smallest little margins. It's like so basically 50-50, but you've got everyone all riled up at each other. So now they're never working together.
And the way I look at it is when you technically have two sides, like in Canada, conservative or liberal, you know, and sometimes I believe in the globalism theory that I think there's bad people on both sides.
Of course, yeah.
Really, is it a democracy? Because no matter who we choose, we're
right. How is that a true democracy? It's not. It's not at all. We just use those terms, right? So it's kind of weird.
Well, Chris Novoselic, right? I've been watching him a lot, and he's with the voting and other options. That man's always been political from even the Nirvana days. But when you now it's making sense. At first, I always thought, oh, it's just wacky. Chris was always that character and goofy, whatever. But now he's actually making more sense than ever before.
Oh yeah, he's not uneducated, and he's not under or uninformed or misinformed about what he's saying, and it actually pisses a lot of people off. I've seen people get mad at him before because they misconstrue, you know, I think the way he regards politics and the political system and how you navigate and negotiate that as being too adherent to like, you know, oh, well, you agree with these things and fuck the government. It's like, yeah, I guess, but it's what you've got. And if you want to influence it, then what are you going to start a little revolution on yourself? It's like, no, you're not. You're just going to be big talk. So if you learn how to work within the parameters of the confines of this thing, which is what it seems like he does and why he has a more realistic point of view sometimes, that's how you're going to, you know, enact or make any influence or change. Otherwise, you're just talking and blowing smoke. So, yeah. Go ahead.
How much does politicization or politics, how much does that, like music, how much influence, like something happens, like you guys see something or you see something going on, or whether it's like this young man that's, you know, was murdered that way, or marijuana law, or you know, something, how much influence does seeing what goes on in your society translate into music or creativity? What I'm saying is getting a message out.
Right. For me, zero. You know, I think mine is absolutely like it is a response to it, but not in the way you'd think. Like my concept on the creation of art or content is almost like there's so much crazy shit and politicizing it. It's all that. Like, so to me, it's almost like it's something that I do that makes me not think about that stuff. You know what I mean?
So you're not a Bono, in other words.
No.
Like some of those guys seem to be, you know what I mean? Like they think they're gonna solve the world's problems. That come to me because I understand politics and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And I write about it all. You know, like, you know, Sunday Bloody Sunday. All your, you know, like you get certain artists that at times you go, man, you know, you're talented, but just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, of course. It's like, come on, dude. Like, does everything have to be like, you know, this is the fucking hill you die on. You know what I mean? Like everything.
We came to see a concert. We didn't want to be lectured on what we should believe in. Right?
Yeah. And so I think that, like, you know, like in all parts of life, when you think of like, you know, social unrest or the way the world is, art is always representative of the time it's made, because the people making it are from that time. So there's no escaping that, because it's going to influence how you feel. I just know that for me personally, the way it influences me is to just, I can only put so much mind into it. It drives me fucking nuts. I hear about Donald Trump all the time. Listen, politics aside, I just don't like that dude. I didn't like him before he was the president. He's a blowhard and a big mouth, and he's full of shit. And that's just my personal opinion. You know what? Our politics could be exactly the same, and I'd still feel that way about him. Not my kind of guy. No big deal.
Yeah.
But having to see that idiot on the TV, it doesn't appeal to me, man. I don't want to hear about him. He's fucking nuts. He always was. It has nothing to do with him being the president. I mean, pressed on my personal beliefs, I can't believe he is. But at the same time, it's the president that the United States of America deserves, because on a surface level, this is the way people see the ugly American. And now we have given them that in its full form. And that's fine. It's just what happens. It sucks. But
well, that's why me diving back into music is I need to get my head out of all this shit.
Yeah.
Right now, like I don't have issues mentally. Like I'm sitting there, I'm at a frustration level with like you said, neo-leftists, like the whole, like we're going through cycles and again, you may have a different view on it, but first we saw a 16-year-old Greta Thunberg who was telling us all about this previous thing that we had with her going on, and we had all these people skipping out of school and and then now all of a sudden she's on a specialist board for the coronavirus. Like what? Like, and I'm sitting there going, like, I don't need people telling me. I love nature. I'm an environmentalist, and I have two problems. All of a sudden, because I don't believe that things should be a certain way, whether it's we all should drive electric cars, or we all should, all of a sudden I am a nature hater, right? Because I catch fish and I eat it. Oh my God, like you're, like they peg me as this with, and then all this, like that's what drives me nuts is like you can't live your life without being judged, right? And trust me, I am the one that wants clean water. I am the one that wants clean air. I do believe in restocking our fish and nature is only there once, and if we destroy it, it's gone, right? And just because I drive a gas powered vehicle or I hunt an animal that I eat.
Oh yeah,
like.
No, that's too extreme, and I'm with you 100% there. I don't like the extremism when it comes to like labeling people, and for me, it's just like, nah, man, I'm a free thinker, and my free thinking doesn't preclude other people thinking differently than me. So when that comes up, it's just like, nah, I'm not playing that game. See, man. Like,
that's what it is. It's a game. Once you guys get touring, I'm going to have to make you guys on my bucket list because, like I said, I was foolish to not attend the 93 with the Puppets and Nirvana in Toronto. And hopefully I'll be able to. I mean, I don't know how big your venues are, where you play. Obviously, the coronavirus is going to put a damper on that for a while. But I'd really it'd be cool to watch you guys.
Yeah, man. Anytime. Just let me know. I'll get you on the list.